stole his first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out and out lies that were really serious, and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration do it.
He said. And the other thing he said that really struck me, he was talking about the drone program. He killed 10 times more people with drones than George W. Bush did. And he said, I never realized I would be so good at killing people.
He's a cold human being.
What is that? That's sociopathy.
Yeah, well, for sure.
You have to be a sociopath to even think that way.
Yes.
But he surrounded himself with other sociopaths.
Barack Obama doesn't just walk into history, he struts in like a man convinced every word he speaks should be etched into stone. But peel back the marble illusion and half of it reads more like the back of a cereal box. Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson sliced through the polished suits and the rehearsed cadence, exposing a man whose greatest trick was making charm look like leadership. Obama mastered the art of selling dreams and delivering speeches, then acting as if the speech itself was the miracle. He was the only president who could hand you empty words and make you believe you just received the keys to a palace.
Them all into the White House, they had a big meeting, and then literally the next day, they were like, Russia interfered to help Trump, and leaked it to all the reporters, Washington Post. And the suggestion is that Obama turned to them and said, I'm not having a report coming out of you guys saying that they didn't interfere. Our whole narrative is that Hillary would have won had it not been for the Russians. Now give me a report that says that. That's the implication. And
now that he's a Netflix producer, along with his hate-addled wife, Michelle, he's producing more racial division. The latest is called Leave the World Behind. It's a fictional thriller about the collapse of technology and what humans would do with no phones or computers. The movie follows a family on vacation at a rental house, and one night they're visited by a father and a daughter who show up seeking shelter. They say their phones no longer work and they need a place to stay. So immediately the white family, because they're evil, that's encoded in their DNA of course, is suspicious of the visitors because they're black.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell, because what comes next will leave you stunned. Megyn Kelly tears straight into Obama's obsession with himself. Here's a man who preaches unity while fueling division, who sells hope but hoards power, and who never misses a moment to remind the world he's historic. He practically trademarked the word hope only to deliver 8 years of red tape, staged photo ops, and drone strikes that told a very different story. Obama's greatest achievement, convincing the world that a teleprompter wasn't just a tool, but a moral compass guiding a presidency built on performance rather than progress.
That intelligence community assessment of January 17 was set to downplay Russian interference in the 16 election. And then after a meeting with Obama and the top intelligence community officials, or at Obama's direction at least, the intelligence community did a complete 180 and played up Russian interference instead of playing it down. And we learned.
Tucker Carlson roasts Obama as nothing more than the political version of an Apple product launch slick presentation, shiny packaging, and promises of revolution so big they made headlines. But the moment you opened the box, it was the same old overpriced gadget with a few cosmetic tweaks. Obama wasn't change you could believe in, he was change you could barely even notice. His healthcare reform collapsed into a mess of half-baked compromises. His foreign policy left behind disaster after disaster, neatly wrapped in poetic speeches. And while America fractured into deeper division, Obama posed for glossy magazine spreads, smiling like a celebrity instead of governing like a leader.
It goes on and on and on like this. Here's a clip.
I'm asking for you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be dulled out easily to anyone, especially white people.
Can't trust white people. They're evil. This is the guy, remember, who became famous at the Democratic Convention in 2004 by telling us there is no white America, there's no black America, it's just one America. But of course, that's not really a profit model in politics, is it? So he's been stoking race hatred ever since, and the disarray around us is the result.
Megyn ripped straight into the hypocrisy. Obama sold himself as the anti-establishment outsider, but once in power, he became the establishment's prized mascot. Wall Street bankrolled him, Hollywood glamorized him, and the media practically turned into his fan club. The man who promised to fight the elites was soon golfing with them, smiling for photo ops as if betrayal was part of the campaign plan. Obama's presidency wasn't a crusade against corruption, it was the Oscars dressed up as governance, with executive orders sprinkled in like stage props. He wasn't leading the nation. He was hosting America's longest-running award show, and the trophy he won was for best performance in pretending to care.
On Friday night, Tulsi Gabbard went on Fox News and said that she'd found documents that she was releasing that show, in sum and substance, that one day the intelligence community under Barack Obama was ready to come out and say that the Russians did not interfere in the 2016 election and really had no part in it, and that whole thing was kind of bullshit.
Tucker tears into the cult of personality that surrounded Obama. Crowds fainted at his rallies. Tears flowed during his speeches, and people spoke his name like he was a savior. But behind the glow of the spotlight, the reality was grim under his watch. The middle class withered, wages froze, and entire communities collapsed. Ironically, those who adored him the most were often the ones crushed hardest by his hollow promises. Obama was the Instagram filter of politics, turning mediocrity into glamour, dressing up failure with eloquence, and selling illusions as if they were destiny.
The psychodrama between him and Obama is real. I don't think it is between him and Kamala Harris, but between him and Obama, it's real.
I remember Hunter Biden, who was my neighbor for many years, telling me more than once, when Biden was vice president, how much they despised Barack Obama. He despised Barack Obama.
Well, what he did to Joe Biden in 2016 to say, we're going with Hillary Clinton, that and the Biden family, that's as bad as it gets. That's as treacherous as it gets. And then in 2020, he didn't really support him until he had to, when it was just him and Bernie.
Megyn rips into Obama's obsession with optics. To him, the presidency wasn't governance. It was a Netflix special starring himself. From slow jamming the news with Jimmy Fallon to grinning in selfies with Hollywood elites, Obama ran America like it was his personal PR campaign. He wasn't solving crises, he was curating content. The chaos in Syria, smoothed over with a velvet voice singing Al Green at a fundraiser. Economic stagnation, buried under a glossy family portrait staged on the White House lawn. Tucker takes the knife deeper. Libya, a catastrophic failure. Syria, a humanitarian nightmare. Iraq, dragged out with no end in sight. Afghanistan, handed off like spoiled leftovers. His infamous red line in Syria, more like a pink highlighter. Dictators mocked it. Allies stopped believing it, and enemies grew bolder. If foreign policy was a movie, Obama wasn't the director, he was the trailer narrator. Smooth, captivating, dramatic, but never actually part of the story. He didn't lead the free world. He sold its decline with a smile.
He concluded in this House document that the Intelligence Community Assessment, or ICA, of January 17 was subject, quoting here, to unusual directives from President Obama and senior political appointees, particularly CIA Director Brennan. Unlike, still quoting, routine intelligence community analysis, this ICA was a high-profile product ordered by the president, directed by senior IC agency heads, and created by just 5 CIA analysts using one principal drafter.
Megyn highlights the irony of Obama's carefully crafted image as a great unifier. He campaigned on healing divisions, yet left America even more divided. Racial conflicts escalated, political polarization hardened, and the nation splintered into rival camps. Obama's solution was always another polished lecture, another grand speech full of hope but empty of results. He could deliver soaring words on race relations for an hour, leaving people momentarily inspired only for them to step outside and see that nothing had actually changed. Tucker brands Obama the master of surface-level reform. He vowed transparency, but his administration secretly spied on journalists. He promised responsibility, yet scandal after scandal from the IRS to Benghazi went unanswered. He pledged affordable health care, but the Affordable Care Act left countless families drowning in costs. Obama's presidency was like buying a glossy used car from a smooth-talking dealer. It looks perfect on the lot, but the moment you drive away, the warning lights won't stop blinking. Megyn doesn't spare the media either. Instead of scrutiny, Obama was showered with admiration. Reporters asked about his basketball picks while dodging his policy failures at home and abroad. His press briefings felt less like tough interrogations and more like fan meets, where journalists tried to outdo each other with compliments. The so-called free press became his cheering squad, helping him polish his image while America struggled through a sluggish recovery, endless foreign wars, and a growing distrust of its own institutions.
Seems to be some momentum picking up in the rumor mill about their marriage. First, on January 15th, in the Substack of Jessica Reed Krause, also known as House and Habit, she posts the following. Michelle Obama's absence at Jimmy Carter's funeral certainly raised some eyebrows, but yesterday's announcement that she won't be attending Trump's inauguration confirms something is definitely going on between her and Barack. Whispers about cracks in their relationship have been circulating in D.C. for over a year now, but this feels like the first public proof of a marriage on the rocks. If I had to guess, they will wait until after the inauguration to announce it. Timing, is everything. And yet the story doesn't end there. For months, I've heard Jennifer Aniston's name tied to Barack. Then Jessica...
Tucker tears into Obama's ego with precision. Here's a man who wrote not one but two memoirs before he even turned 50. Who does that? Most people wait until history books actually etch their names in stone, but Obama, he wrote as if his face was already destined for Mount Rushmore, and he didn't stop there. After leaving office, he cashed in with Netflix deals, book tours, and speaking engagements that pulled in millions. He transformed public service into a personal brand. He wasn't just a president, he was the franchise. Megyn jumps in, reminding viewers that Obama's most loyal admirers still judge him by how beautifully he spoke rather than how effectively he governed. Yes, his words could lift a room, weaving visions of American promise. But when the applause faded, factories were shuttering, healthcare costs soared, and working families kept falling behind. His supporters clung to the goosebumps while ignoring the stagnation. It's like raving about a concert's light show while pretending not to notice the band was completely off-key.
Hirsch piece. Here's the cliff notes. Obama colludes with Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer. Sunday morning calls Biden and says, you're done. Kamala's going to 25th Amendment you, and you got to step aside.
And who places the call?
Obama.
Obama does.
So Obama calls the sitting president and tells him, you're done. Then tells Kamala Harris, you're going to be the nominee. But if you don't gain traction, if you're not popular, we're going to take you out too. I mean, it's all shocking. It sounds true.
Tucker tears into Obama's legacy, calling it the blueprint for the chaos that came after. By ignoring the frustration of middle America, cozying up to elites, and dismissing opponents with arrogance, Obama set the stage for a political earthquake. He branded himself as the great unifier, yet his aloofness and pride only deepened resentment. The irony, the man who preached hope left the nation angrier, more divided, and dangerously cynical. Megyn drives the point further, exposing the hollowness of Obama's so-called achievements. His Nobel Peace Prize was handed to him before he even proved himself, like winning an Oscar before stepping on set. His healthcare reform limped forward, unpopular and riddled with loopholes. His foreign policy created power vacuums that spiraled into chaos, and his economic recovery crawled along uneven and exclusionary, leaving millions stranded. In the end, Obama's record stands as a textbook example of optics over outcomes, branding over real change, speeches over solutions.
And like I said, the only reason I had come out about it is I had reached out to the campaign even in 2007. Only because I saw all these kids getting excited about it.
Okay, wait, so how did that end?
Same way. So you get off, you finish smoking, you leave.
Thanks, bye?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. What did you think of him?
I thought it was interesting.
Tucker Carlson doesn't hold back. He argues that Obama's real gift wasn't leadership, but the art of disguising charm as competence. He was the admired professor who inspired the class, yet when the test arrived, no one passed. Behind the polished image, the machinery of government corroded in silence. Obama gave America the sense it was advancing, when in truth, the nation stood frozen in place. Megyn Kelly drives the point deeper. The Obama legend, she says, was built on charisma, rather than concrete results. Take away the soaring speeches, the glamour, and the media worship, and what's left is a trail of missteps and neglect. He wasn't America's savior, he was a salesman of illusions, and the tragedy is that millions still cling to his words, while overlooking the lasting harm of his policies. Together, Carlson and Kelly warn that history won't be swayed by eloquence or applause. Obama may write memoirs, sign Netflix contracts, and enjoy the glow of celebrity admiration, but the truth doesn't change. He was the architect of appearances, the emperor of empty rhetoric, convincing a nation that words alone could carry progress. His legacy is not one of greatness, but of a carefully staged illusion, now stripped bare under the unforgiving light of reality.
Now, of course, it wasn't what they presented it as. It wasn't like a grassroots campaign. He was approved of by the powers that be. He didn't just happen to, as a junior senator, get like a primetime speaking slot in 2004 where he gave that speech.
He wasn't even a senator yet.
Was he a state senator still at the time?
That's when I first met Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Walking down the street, smoking a cigarette in Boston on my way to dinner at the Palm. I'll never forget it. And I met him and Jesse Jackson Jr. They pulled over to say hi to me.
Really?
And I'd never heard his name. And I covered politics for a living.
Right.
And he gave the keynote at the end of that week. That was Sunday night. He spoke on Thursday. And yeah, he was not.
What cuts even deeper in this roast is how Barack's carefully polished image crumbles under the sheer weight of his own contradictions. Megyn Kelly stresses that he once painted himself as a transformational figure, yet left behind policies so flimsy that the very communities he vowed to uplift were still waiting for real change long after he walked out of the White House. Tucker takes it further, mocking how Barack's speeches may sound poetic, but on closer inspection, they're nothing more than empty calories served on a silver platter, but offering no real nourishment for the country. They dismantle his obsession with adoration. Being a two-term president wasn't enough. Barack wanted to be remembered as the planet's moral compass, as if the whole world was a classroom and he was its eternal lecturer. But history remembers something else. Drone strikes brushed off with a smile, a healthcare system that confused more Americans than it served, and a legacy that slipped away faster than his lucrative memoir deals could catch it. The roast doesn't spare his personal brand either. Barack now sells himself like a lifestyle influencer who accidentally wandered into politics. Spotify deals, Netflix contracts, speaking tours. He's turned into a one-man commercial for monetizing nostalgia. Tucker and Megyn underlined absurdity. The same man who once scolded Wall Street greed now cashes checks far larger than the bankers he condemned. It's hypocrisy, polished, packaged, and gift-wrapped in charisma.
Who was running CIA under Obama, was confronted by a CIA officer about the flaws in the dossier. The guy was like, dude, we can't rely on this. We can't use this to say there was aspiration to help Trump. We shouldn't be sticking it in the annex to our report, or relying on it in any way. This needs to come out. It's fatally flawed. Brennan allegedly said, quote, yes, but doesn't it ring true? Holy cow.
In the room, there's a knock on the door. I open the door and he's standing there. And he's standing there with more coke, and he comes in, and it was just like a quick, rehash or rerun from the night before.
Exact same program.
Exact same program.
Was he smoking again?
Yep.
So Barack Obama smokes crack and then you perform.
Yep.
And then comes the harshest strike: Barack Obama's refusal to let go of power. Unlike other former presidents who step aside with dignity, he lingers in the background, pulling strings, whispering in corridors, and making sure the spotlight never drifts too far from his orbit. Megyn and Tucker tear this apart as nothing more than desperation dressed up as leadership. He isn't leading, he's clinging, desperate to control the narrative and keep his image intact. Obama paints himself as down to earth, but his reality screams elitism, luxury vacations, sprawling estates, five-star lifestyles. Meanwhile, he lectures ordinary Americans to tighten their belts, recycle harder, and live with less. It's hypocrisy with a polished smile, and the roast makes sure no one misses it by the end. The illusion shatters. Barack Obama is not the flawless cultural icon his supporters want to believe in, nor is he the transformative leader he promised to be on campaign stages filled with empty slogans and lofty promises. Behind the slick smile and choreographed appearances lies a fragile legacy that crumbles under real scrutiny. Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson don't just poke holes in the myth, they strip it bare, exposing a man desperate to be bigger than history itself. But history may remember him differently, not as the visionary who delivered change, but as the politician who mastered branding while fumbling the very change he once vowed to bring.